Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Wealthy Retailer Podcast. I'm your host today, Dan Holman with the Wealthy Retailer. I've got my man from Road 55 Marketing, Rob Lawlisher, gathered a bunch of great retail stories for this week that we're going to talk about. Rob, good morning.
Yeah, how's it going today?
You know, cold as shit outside, man. I went for a little walk this morning and whew, that was not a good idea.
Well, frost on the pumpkin out there, they like to say. Yeah,
you come in and your face is caked with ice. You know, it's like, you think the beard's a good idea to keep you warm, but not really.
We made the mistake of complaining to our landlord that it was too cold last week, and we're sitting in a balmy 30 degrees this week. So I think he's got our vengeance on us. A lot of good stuff this week, including, Dan, I'm looking forward to this. Towards the end, we're going to have a question from some independent retailers. You get peppered with some different questions, and I think what a great opportunity Kate, we're going to pull one of them out and you're going to address it head on. And I'm looking forward to that. In addition, we've got some stories we'll be chatting about. One is 5 key themes for 2021 retail. That'll be great. A story about trends that will converge to really change retail even faster this year. Story about returns. Well, you want to slow down your returns, fix your apparel sizing. So that should be interesting. And, we know they started with people, then food, and now they're delivering for retail. A little chat about Uber, as well as we'll just say delivery options in general for independent retailers. So a lot of great stuff to dive into. Our first one comes from the management1.com. And it dives into what they say. These are the 5 key themes for retail for 2021. Dan, what were your thoughts here?
Well, like I've said many times, Rob, anytime one of our partners shares information, we glom onto it. We glom onto it because it's relevant to us. And retailers really do need to follow, management1.com. I've said it I don't know how many times. I'm going to say it again and again and again and again. Management One is the leader in merchandise forecasting, and they're bringing themselves up after, what 220 was, as being one of the leading educators. And their purpose is really to bring education and intelligence or merchandise intelligence to the retail world. So when they blasted out this great blog, we jumped on it and couldn't agree more. Here are the 5 things that they've identified. There's no going backward in assortment planning, and I'll expound on them a little bit, but no going backward with your assortment planning, no going backward with your marketing and digital channels. Messaging and branding are paramount, are key in 2021. And 2021 is going to be the tale of 2 halves. This is coming from, a retail provider that probably works with more independent retailers on the continent than any other company. So they have a pretty good resource that they draw on. Yep. So 21 is going to be the tale of 2 halves. And then lastly for them was the requirement to build adaptability in your business. So let's start with number 1. There's no going backward in assortment planning. Assortment planning is a key function within your retail store. Assortment planning takes your merchandise plan, that higher level or categorical level structure, demand and buying forecasts, and breaks it down to a SKU level. What SKUs am I carrying within my categories? And as vaccines roll out and things start to return to some semblance of normalcy, the new normal will not be identical to sort of pre-COVID normal. Consumers' habits have already changed, Rob. We've already, people learn very quickly. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but that's a fallacy. We talked about, I think maybe last week, my mom and how she's kind of shifted, a 70-something-year-old, shifting in her buying habits and how they're buying. And my dad too. My dad is probably the greatest investigator online that I know of. If something's broken, he figures out what it is, how it is, where it is, and he goes to his iPad to do that. So back to assortment planning, the consumer's habits are changing and their tastes and their needs are changing. And a retailer has to adapt to that new assortment that now matches the future needs and desires.
Okay.
There's no question people are longing to get out. And at some point, we're going to see luxury wear or dress wear, resurge, if you will, in 2021, but it's not right now.
There's that two halves you were talking about. Yeah.
We're going to talk about those two halves later. This is really about understanding the key categories in your store that he or she is supporting right now that reflect their changing lifestyles, and take calculated risk to feed those categories. So number 2 was really, there's no going backward in your marketing and sales channels. And the shares gained this year by e-com won't be reversed. It's only going to continue to increase if done right. And how we're talking, becomes our secret weapon as an independent retailer in marrying our brick and mortar store and our digital space, that phygital. Can't believe I said that word. But
let's get it, Dan. Let's get
it. That phygital presentation that you're looking for. Now's not the time to ease up on figuring out your e-commerce. Now's the time to double down and improve your e-commerce platform. And in addition to e-com, when I talk about marketing and sales, you have to have some mechanism. This is great. You have to have from Management One, you've got to have a CRM system, that is now this critical part of your technology stack. It plays a central role in selling to your customers and uncovering future prospects. So CRM, customer relationship management, almost every POS system has a cursory way of managing your customer relationship. But you really need to look at, how do we get better data about our consumer. I think last week we talked about buyer personas, shopper personas, and really how do we start to exhume some of that data to really deliver better marketing. Okay, number 3 for Management One was messaging and branding are key. And in a digitally led world, how you present yourself and the stories you tell via your store, your website, your emails, or your social media channels are critical. Customers need to know not just what you have, but who you are. We've talked about this persona, the store persona, the values and the why. And we had a great retailer question this week that we've included in our podcast that's going to talk about the who and why. And so understanding that, it's important, for us to recognize that customers want to buy from people that they admire, stores they admire. And funny enough, that's the A in wealthy for us, being admired by your peers, by your customers, by your staff. This admiration that people have comes from or begins with good messaging and good branding. Number 4 was, 2021 is going to be this tale of two halves. So for the first half of the year, our team at Management One is really forecasting for those, apparel stores, a bit of a lot of retail, not just apparel, but a little bit of a softer start. And certainly we've seen a slower start to January than we've normally seen. January is typically, big, heavy clearance, lots of activity in the store. It comes off of, in Canada, Boxing Week, rolls right into our January, get out of winter and merchandise and get ready for spring. Well, we're going to see a bit of a slowed start. And it's going to be sort of economically driven. And Management One will make reference to, we're sharing this article, by the way, with you in this week's newsletter. Management One will make reference to some economic stimulus that's got to get through Congress in the USA. And in Canada, we're still in that place that we're grasping for some support as we maintain either closures or restrictive openings going forward. We're not able to do the business that we need to. And a lot of service in the second half, I believe, of 2021, and Management One sort of highlights that a lot of the growth that's going to happen is going to land in, restaurants, travel, gyms, personal services, that kind of thing. Things that the luxuries in life that we've missed out on or will miss out on in the first half. Well, if you're an apparel retailer, you're going to feel some benefit in that. That retail therapy is going to come back. People are itching to get out, and they're going to want to dress up. So that being said, Managed One believes that retailers of goods that boomed in 2020, i.e., solo sports, our ski stores, skate stores, our bike stores, are probably not going to feel the same level of success in, late 21 or early 22 that we're living right now. So we need to be prepared. And number 5, build adaptability into your business. We've said for a long time, Rob, that you have to be adaptable. And all 4 points that Management One highlighted above, require you to think and act differently in your business. That skill, the ability to absorb new information, devise a plan, and take action quickly is critical for all business at all time. But, speaking specifically about retailers or our retailers, we need to consider hiring people with backgrounds that are different from your own. Question your first response to important questions. Look outside your 4 walls. Consider, all of these third-party apps that are out there and opportunities to really adapt to your changing place. You've got to be lean, right? You want to be wealthy in retail. L for us is about being lean in presentation, lean in expense, lean in inventory, lean, giving you the ability to adapt quickly, to shift, to dip, to dive, to dodge, to duck. That's nice. Management One's 5 things that they've highlighted today for 2021. That link will be included in our newsletter this week, so make sure that you're getting a copy of our newsletter.
Seems rather apparent in this car that we call 2021. There is no reverse.
No reverse. That's right, brother. No reverse.
And I will always like the saying of there's a reason that the rearview mirror is significantly smaller than your windshield.
100%.
Plowing ahead. So speaking of that takes us to our next story, Dan, coming from Forbes.com. 5 trends that will converge to change retail even faster in 21. If 20 wasn't fast enough for you,
right?
Tell us a bit about this.
Yeah, so Forbes really put together what I'm going to call a little bit high level, above my head, sort of technology-driven look at what these 5 things are. So the 5 things were social commerce, third-party delivery marketplaces, hyper-local micro-fulfillment. Wrap your lips around that one.
Yep.
BOPIS, you and I love BOPIS, but with an indeterminate S on the end that we're going to talk about. And then computer vision, way beyond where the indie retailer is today. But again, really well put together article from Forbes.com. We're going to include it in our newsletter. So what do they mean by social commerce? Really, it's about retail companies that invest in getting people from inspiration to click, either on Instagram or other platforms, in seconds. Will be the ones who will still be standing at the end of 2021, not the other way around. So what do they mean by, click? Again, Rob, let's go back to that buyer process, dreaming, exploring, selecting, and enjoying. They're dreaming on their phone when they're thumbing through. When they're inspired by a video, a reel, a TikTok, a live, then they're clicking on it, which can take them immediately to a commerce platform. So retail companies that invest in getting people from, inspiration, from inspiring them to click are the ones that are going to have success.
Great point with it. It is that inspiration, right? Yeah. It's not, don't jump right to the one click, like just, the onus is on you to create that first part of the funnel for them. So
right, for sure. And this is really where TikTok is owning a lot of marketplace. We talked about JJ's in Kootenay and, the Hot Boss TikToks that now have over 1 million followers. And the number one source of traffic is referral from TikTok. Saw your videos on TikTok. TikTok now part of Reels. You can upload them on your Instagram, Reels. And so there's some power there in having fun and being a bit, maybe not the Hot Boss inspirational, but inspirational in the products that you're carrying and how, they change your life or impact your life. Number 2 for these guys was third-party delivery marketplace. At the end of the day, Rob, we've talked about this a ton. The last mile of delivery is no more than a white label good, and yet the industry's been so desperate it doesn't treat it that way. The last mile of delivery is so difficult, and I think we're going to talk about, not I think, I now know, I remember, we're going to talk about Rexall and the great partnership that Rexall started with Uber Eats, and finalizing that last mile of delivery. And how does an indie retailer take advantage of that? Number 3 for them was that hyperlocal micro fulfillment. And this really broken down means that retailers need to create a better pick and pack efficiency closer to the consumer, the pick closer to the consumer. The hyper-local fulfillment at the store level is where most indie retailers live today. They don't have big warehouses in the back or distribution centers that they go and pick and pack orders from. They're yanking stuff off their retail floor. And retailers live this right now, and I've recognized how it's exploded of late. It was already growing prior to the pandemic, but the virus has really only accelerated that trend. And we need to be better and faster at fulfilling customer orders. That's part of, that experience. Number 4 was BOPIS with an indeterminate S.
Explain that to us.
So BOPIS, is traditionally known as, buy online, pick up in store. And they're shifting this to say the indeterminate S is pick it up somewhere or something. Where? If not in your store, where can she pick up her goods? Yeah. Now, there are a ton of opportunities out there. I talk lots of times, in St. Albert about Jody from the big brown truck store, the UPS store. The UPS store is way more than that. It's a great depot for customers to be able to pick up at, their will what they need. Look at, lockers in grocery stores that are popping up all over the place. Here's your code to your locker. Oh, there's your goods picked up at your convenience. How do consumers now pick up at your store at their convenience? And that's really what BOPIS with this indeterminate S means. Buy online, pick it up somewhere. Not always in store. We want them in our store, but not always most convenient given the weird hours that we're seeing in retail today. And let's talk specifically about the indie retailer, not, the Best Buys of the world or any other big chain, Walmart's included, that have the ability to roll 24/7. And then their number 5, way over our head, it's called computer vision. And computer vision is a field of artificial intelligence that trains computers to interpret and understand the visual world. And using images from cameras and videos and deep learning modules or models, machines can accurately, tell us information about the consumer, about inventory. And certainly, we see a little bit of that with RFID technology when we talk about inventory efficiencies. And really, this computer vision, is way ahead of where we are, but it's really taking better retail operations and better customer experience and rolled into one. But again, way ahead of where we are. Again, I love to look at things that are beyond me. And I don't look at opportunity and say, I can't do that. I look at these best practices, these tips, these things that are shared as, is it relevant to me? And how could I implement something like that in my business? Not, I can't implement in my business.
Yeah, and start thinking about it now, like just planting a little bit of the seed. These are some of the things, and we've touched on stuff, Dan, on the tech side. I think a lot of as it relates to traffic counting in the store, and that the good starting point to we'll call it eventually Terminator vision, where everything is that augmented reality. It is right on. Yeah. Good stuff there. Folks, reminder that this podcast is brought to you by Canadian Retail Solutions. Let Dan and his entire team help you find that cutting edge retail solution today. And there is a team, folks. There's a whole bunch of them ready to help you. So visit retailbycrs.com. From the latest point of sale software, merchandise intelligence, open to buy plans. You want to open that e-commerce store, they will help you.
Yeah. We're a small team, but a mighty team with a massive resource pool. So we've got some stuff.
Right on. Okay. Here's a story coming from retaildive.com, Dan, and a lot as e-commerce grows, so does this world of returns. And it talks about if you want to slow that down, really need to zero in on how to fix apparel sizing. So what are your thoughts here?
For sure. Apparel sizing is a challenge. And the number one reason for a return, in retail, all of retail, is fit. And speaking firsthand, sizing is the most challenging bridge to cross for retailers, especially those that are private labeling goods, or even better, manufacturing their own goods.
Right.
According to NRF, National Retail Federation, consumers returned about 428 billion,
with a B,
almost a $500 billion worth of merchandise. Yeah, with a T, $500 billion worth of merchandise last year.
Yeah.
Which really represents almost 11% of total retail sales. So here we are talking to our indie retailers, and I want you to ask yourself, what are my return rates? Are they more than 10 or 11%? Are they less? Where should my benchmark be? And then ask yourself, why are things being returned? If fit is one of those reasons, I can tell you that there's a way to curb that. And before that, I'm gonna tell you about this article, and it came from Retail Dive, and I should have mentioned that Karen Vembar is the author. Love this girl, sassy, a bit maybe lippy like me, really hammered hard on the apparel world and how even products from the same brand sizing changes from season to season. Well, that all goes back to manufacturing. So this is my tip. If you're an apparel retailer, when showcasing products, you've got to describe the models. It's the number one mistake that retailers make when they're talking, to their audience. They're showcasing product and they're not describing the model that's wearing the product. We don't want to see still product shots. We want to see people inside the product sitting on the sofa. I want to know how tall they are. It's 5'6", 130 pounds, wearing a medium, and this fits true to size. Tell people when they can size up or down. Hey, the fit is generous, so we recommend sizing down. Or, these are a little bit undersized, so we suggest sizing up, ladies.
Yep.
And sharing that piece in your story that ties it to the audience that's looking at it. If you're not a 250-pound guy, 5'9", you probably aren't in the same fit scale as I am. And so, showing me this tight little thin V-shaped dude,
yep,
wearing a shirt doesn't make that shirt fit me. It doesn't give me that point of relevance. And I'll tell you that Michelle from Elle's Closet Boutique does an absolutely fabulous job of defining sizing. I'm in my normal medium. I am this tall. I'm in my normal medium,
yeah,
and it fits very well. I've actually sized down in this. I'm not in my normal medium. So people can start to now make a correlation. And I'm going to tell you that every retailer we talk to, the returns come not because of style, or it's because of how it fits. It doesn't fit the way they want it to. It doesn't make them feel the way they anticipated.
Interesting. You when you look on the ad side of the business, you're trying to put the right content in front of the right audience, but you think when they come to you, to your store, think with that same hat on, let's make sure we're putting the right content in front of the right audience, and not, I know that's a challenge, and I know the steps involved to do that, but I think that's a bit of a challenge for everyone to take away and think a little bit about, okay, what might I do when we'll say big fella Rob shows up at my online store versus skinny Dave, and what might the experience be a little different on that front. Very cool.
And I think it's a miss for a lot of apparel retailers that they're not describing who's wearing it in their online platforms, whether that's on their website or, in these great live videos that they're doing. And so many of them are doing really good work. And it's just a tiny miss that will, if in fact, perhaps create a return. And again, Rob, this is about you going back and analyzing data. What's my return rate? Where's my benchmark? Is it acceptable? Don't waste your time if you got a 3% return rate. Don't sweat it. Don't ignore it. But let's focus on bigger fish to fry in your business. And there are always things to improve. We've got to believe in this Kaizen approach to business.
Now, you'd said, sorry if I was wrong, but this was about 11% of the full market that was coming back?
Full market, showed about 11% returns last year. Now, that's a big market, obviously.
Right.
Is 10% an acceptable return rate? Every store is going to have a different return rate and different reasons. And every time a return comes back, you need to know why. I can tell you, working hand in hand, with Candace at Twig and Berries, the number one reason for a return there is fit. And, products are coming from 5 or 7 different countries and every, 25 or 35 different vendors. And every vendor, has a different size scale. Even their own products have different size scales. The products that, Candace is manufacturing, or the team over there at Twig and Berries manufacturing has different size scales. And you've got to sort of recognize that and be forthright with those sizes, those challenges. They happen vendor to vendor. I mean, our best vendors have weird sizing sometimes.
Yeah, right on. Okay, thanks for that. Okay, our next story comes from retailinsider.com talking about Uber in retail. Went from people to pizzas to, now delivering for Rexall in this particular case. What are your thoughts here, Dan?
Rob, we've talked about this last mile, the pain about the last mile of delivery 1,000 times. And this is just really a great initiative. And I loved, that Retail Insider picked up on this. Rexall, it's got about 200 stores in Canada, really Western Canada. And they've formed this partnership with Uber Eats to pick up and deliver from their store directly to their customers. And what can the indie retailer do? Well, why not make Uber Eats available to your customers so she can schedule a pickup at her convenience? And more than that, you could schedule deliveries that are convenient for her. And there are efficient, cost-effective delivery options popping up in most of our major cities. And if you're a Shopify user, you might remember, 5 or 6 years ago, Shopify announced a partnership with Uber to handle last mile of delivery. Yeah. Not sure really that it came to fruition, but there's a lot of competition in that space. And having received a delivery from an Uber driver from one of our local stores in Edmonton recently, I thought, good on you. You didn't have the ability, the time, the capacity to jump in your truck and drop it off for me, but you were smart enough to get it to me fast. Yep. And this really speaks to that, hyper-local micro-fulfillment strategy that then gets it delivered very quickly. The number one comment that we hear back from local stores that do same-day delivery is, I ordered it at 2:00 and it was on my porch at 4:30. The immediate delivery, that immediate satisfaction versus the, sometimes 2 to 4 weeks that it takes to buy products or to receive products from some of the big dudes.
Excitement's a little gone at that point, I'd suggest.
Right. Right. And as this demand, if you're a Shopify user, they continue to integrate with local delivery services. And we're going to see more and more of this in the second half of 2021 as the year progresses and the demand continues to increase. Consumers have shifted. They're happy, more than happy. They're longing to support the local retailer, but they still want, efficiency.
We hear a lot, Dan, in the media about stories about Skip the Dishes, Uber Eats, as it relates to restaurants, the significant percentage they're taking of the sale. Is it similar in retail, or is it, that's the price of business? You just got to figure out.
You got to figure out how to manage this. Yep. If my consumer wants next day delivery on anything that's on my floor, I've got to figure out how to get it to them. And it doesn't mean that it has to be free, Rob. It means you have to figure out how to get it to them. And the higher your purchase price, the higher your average sale, the more opportunity there is inside that to build in some delivery options. And this is not about, I can't afford to do this. This is about, I can't not afford it. I can't not do this. I've got to figure out a way to satisfy my consumer. And there are tons of local delivery options that are, $10, $12. The challenge that you hear with the restaurants, they're giving up 20 or 30 points, is overshadowed by the savings of that person serving, cleaning. I mean, think about what it looks like when you walk into a restaurant, how much it costs for you to walk into a restaurant and be greeted by a hostess, sat at a clean table, brought cutlery, brought, water, bread, blah, 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 served, and so on. Well, there's an expense to that.
Yep.
And for some reason, restaurateurs have glommed onto the hatred, for skip the dishes because of how much they take. But, I gained a customer, so it's part of my marketing budget.
Yep.
I saved or perhaps expanded my occupancy rate by doing that at the expense of 20 points on the meal. And let's talk about the average skip the dishes delivery at $55. 20 points is that, $10 or $12 delivery fee that every retailer out there is paying right now. So let's not try to lose.
Yeah, and throw your lifetime value hat on and rather than just simply looking at that transaction, especially on the retail front.
Right.
And like, look, this isn't going to be the only way, hopefully, that they interact with you, but don't treat it just as that one. And again, challenge back to you. Find a way. You paid a little bit more for this transaction,
right? But
find them a way to get them in the store. Find a way to sell them more.
And let's remember that Uber Eats came out, Skip the Dishes came out, DoorDash. Lots of these guys owned a good piece of the market share and were able to charge, a pretty fair rate, a pretty aggressive rate. That's going to change as more and more competition, rears its beautiful head. We're going to see change in the way that the pricing structures are laid out, and it's going to become more cost effective for the retailer.
Yeah. Okay, Dan, I'm excited about this. Like you said, a lot of questions coming your way from different retailers, and so you've grabbed one of these questions this week, and maybe tell us a bit not only about this question, but for anyone listening who has maybe a question percolating, how they can get that to you in the future.
Yeah, for sure. And Rob, we get questions every week, and I always respond as quickly as I can, to an email that comes to dan@thewealthyretailer.com. I respond as quickly as I can, but I thought, hey, we really should be talking about these questions that come, because if one retailer has a question, you can bet your ass another one has the same question.
Totally.
So this came from Carrie in Newmarket, Ontario, and she wrote, I'm having trouble hiring the right people. Do you have tips for interviewing and hiring good people? And there was a little bit more depth inside that, but that's really, the bulk of the question. And so I'm going to say to Carrie and anyone else that's listening, when it comes to hiring the right people and putting them in the right seat in your organization, you start with core values. You start with interviewing, hiring, rewarding and reprimanding your team based on values. What are your core values? But for this answer, I want to set aside the core values and look at who is trying to join your team, what those applicants are, and what you really need. So I'm going to use this example, a who example. I'm going to use armed forces to start. So there's three types of people who join the Army or any armed forces. For some, it's a job. For others, it's a family tradition. And then there are the patriots, the defenders that join, Rob, for the greater good. Well, in retail, we see the same types of people with slightly different descriptions. We have those that are in it as a family tradition. We talked about JJ's in Kootenay a little while ago. Well, JJ's in Kootenay is a 70, I think it's 73 or 43, 47
almost
year old.
50 years old. Yeah.
50-year-old business. So for Ryland, it's a family business. Ryland is the name of the manager there, which you got to follow their reels or their TikToks. They're fabulous. JJ's and Kootenay.
Hot boss.
The hot boss. They've just done a great job of amassing 1 million followers. So sorry, we sidetracked there. So let's just talk about those that are, they're in it for it's family tradition, and that's how they land in retail. Well, then we have those that come to us that need a job, and they're typically here for the money and will do whatever they have to get that dollar. Those people are often blended, with personality types that long for fame. And anyone that longs to be famous will sacrifice dollars to achieve it. They'll start a podcast, just to be famous and toss away how much that costs just to achieve some level of fame. But really, people are in it to do good, to make change, to be famous, or to make money. And fame and fortune kind of always sort of tied together. And in our retail audience, in that candidate audience, they are no different. We have the people, that need a job, and they do it for the money. And then we have my favorite, our retail patriots, Rob. They're the defenders. They're here for the greater good. They protect our reputation and our results, and they treat your business as if it were theirs. They treat it like it was theirs. It's that close to them. And in your store, we need a comfortable blend of, I need a job, I do it for the money, I do it for the fame, and patriots, people that are here for the greater good. That's how we thrive in retail. So when you look at your audience today, when you look at your team today, start to silo the types of personalities. No one gets a job unless they are, somewhat aligned with our values. If they're misaligned with our values, they shouldn't be allowed in the door. But so that audience that you have really speaks to who you are. And look at the gaps. Is everybody here for the greater good? Or do I have a comfortable blend of greater good and driven for money or fame? And make sure that we have this comfortable spread. So for Carrie, I said, let's look at the people that you're interviewing and ask questions to try to determine what type of people they are. And Plus 32 puts out some really great interview questions in determining someone's personality type. Are they in it for the right reason? Do they need a job? Are they doing this for the money? They got to pay their bills. Those are good people to have around when effectively, properly coached. And then you need your patriots, the people that are ultra protective and will sacrifice $1, to do the right thing for the business. They're protective of reputation and belief system. Yeah. And then I'm going to say, Rob, I would be remiss if I didn't mention there's one more type of person that goes out looking for a gig, that looks for a job. And my friend Kay in Virginia will connect on this one. Some applicants come to us because they're bored and they're looking for something to do. And I tell you, be very, very careful of hiring that personality type, that person that's bored. They're generally, quite self-indulgent. Don't give a shit about your systems, your needs, your vision. They're filling a gap. The tennis wife, the person that doesn't have, there may be kids are grown or kids are in school and they don't have a professional career and they're looking to fill time. That's self-serving. That's self-indulgent. So you have to be cautious about hiring that person because they typically, like I say, aren't really aligned with your vision. Don't give a shit about your vision. It's quite, self-serving what they're doing. So
no, it's an interesting take. Yeah. I really like the, really thinking about the seats on the bus and just kind of there's different people you need on your team and you're going to get these in the interview process and not to just, these are my interview questions, regardless of the position, regardless of the person, and really look for those opportunities to find the best fit on the team.
Yeah. And Rob, we've said this before. We make the mistake as retailers. We make this sometimes fatal mistake of hiring people based on skill and experience.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where they come from. The best thing that you can do is hire people that come from outside your little four-wall world. Allow them to expand. One of the greatest attributes of a really strong leader is the ability to delegate and elevate to unique ability, right? You've got to be able to get to that where you belong and let go of the vine so other people can do what they do. And so when hiring, Carrie, and everyone else, look at the team you have, perform your gap analysis. Do I have too many patriots? Do I have too many in it for the money? Do I have too many bored housewives? And how do I now need to start to blend in my team? And you start that interview process. And there are 3 steps in the interview process. There is the get to know you, the 15-minute, is there an attraction? The second one is the core values interview.
Yep.
Is really examining who this person is and do they fit within my organization. And then the third step is, the capacity, the talent, the skill, the
technical side
this
of
is
it.
where I go. And every interview conversation or every interview process should start with a 15-minute phone call. Am I attracted to this person? And ask questions like, why did you apply? What drew you? What attracted you to this ad or this? Why are you looking to work here? What is it about us that attracted to you? And we can smell bullshit a mile away. So be wary of great salespeople, that can sell their way into your organization.
Good stuff. Thanks for the question, Kerry. And folks, if you've got one, zip an email to dan@thewealthyretailer.com and let's get those questions rolling.
I promise I won't always highlight the who in the podcast, but I will always answer the question directly to you in confidence, and then perhaps share a tip that others are going to find valuable.
Right on.
So please send it off to dan@thewealthyretailer.com. And while you're doing that, jump on thewealthyretailer.com or Retail by CRS and subscribe to our weekly newsletter, where we share, of course, the podcast and all the stories that we talk about, but lots of other good stuff in that, point of sale and e-com and inventory planning world, and share the stories that we believe, have some relevance to you, the independent retailer.
Yeah. In addition to today's stories that we talked about, there's a few more links in this week's podcast. There's one about when an independent retailer goes online and not only for their own shop, but actually becomes the digital mall themselves. So I thought that was great. Story about Vans, their Foot the Bill program. It's a unique opportunity that they extend to their Vans family. Interesting there. Link to the story about the redevelopment and reimagination of retail sites. We're probably going to see a lot of that going forward. And a story about package-free stores, how the zero-waste lifestyle movement is boosting retail trends. So you'll probably get some enjoyment out of that. All right. Well, thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Great week. Lots of good stories, lots of good stuff to chat about. So, look, and again, hit us up on the newsletter. We'll make sure that we're sharing good information with you. Subscribe to the podcast. We're here every week. And look forward to chatting with you again next week.
Awesome. Happy retailing.
Yeah. Cheers.